Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Tom Baker Show. I am Tom Baker. It's good to have you back. We are going to talk a lot of NASCAR on this show because we just came off the race weekend at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. And again, there is a lot to talk about, right? We had, for the second straight week, we had a drafting track to deal with, albeit a smaller drafting track. A lot of stuff went on. There was a lot of good racing, a lot of very competitive racing, but not without some controversy. And here we go again with a last lap caution flag that NASCAR throws at the end of the race on Sunday, the M Better Health 400. We're going to talk about NASCAR's inconsistency with the yellows because in some ways I see what the problem is, and I don't think it's the cautions themselves. We'll get to that. I have a different theory on why everybody's so frustrated here. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Dodge. We got a Dodge issue here. Dodge returning to trucks in 26? It seems like it. We haven't seen an official announcement, but feels like Dodge is ready to come back. I think there's too much smoke not to have fire. So it looks to me like we may be seeing the return of an iconic brand back to NASCAR. And we're also going to talk about IndyCar because their season opener is upon us as well. Okay, NASCAR, our hot topic for this show. To caution or not to caution? That is the question. Look, NASCAR just has had a lot of difficulty finding consistency when throwing the yellow on last lap wrecks in the Cup Series. And this has gone on, this started last year. And it seems to be getting worse. It's like let's look back at just what we've had in a couple weeks this year. On duel Thursday, Eric Jones lost his duel because of a yellow flag on the last lap for a wreck that was behind him. The Daytona 500, no caution for the last lap wreck. William Byron wins his second straight 500. And now we go to Atlanta and we have another wreck and another caution. Now, I think that we have to break this down a little bit because there's a multitude of issues that I think are going on here that are making this such a problem. First of all, should we ever throw a caution on the last lap when there's a wreck? Sure, absolutely. If there's a serious wreck and somebody has hit the wall hard and the cars, any amount of the cars are behind the wreck, then I have no problem throwing the caution. In fact, I've always been a believer that the idea that the white flag ends the race is wrong. Because if I'm a paying fan who spent thousands of dollars to come and watch a race, I want to see a green flag race to the line. I don't want to see the race end under a yellow. Okay, I have no problem with throwing a caution on the last lap of the race if there's a wreck. Somebody may be hurt. I understand all of that. You want to roll the safety vehicles. I have no problem with the concept of cautions on the last lap. I do have a problem with ending the race under a caution. Okay, but we'll get to that. So NASCAR has had both situations, right? So far this year. I mean, they weren't 100 feet from the finish line on Thursday in Eric Jones' duel when they threw the caution, okay? And that caution cost him the win. But the caution itself, I would argue, didn't cost him the win. There's another piece to this puzzle that we'll get to in a minute that I think cost him the win. In the 500, no yellow whatsoever. William Byron goes to the finish line and wins, okay? In Atlanta, we had another caution on the last lap. Josh Berry hit the wall and was sitting there. They threw the caution. And again, here's where I think this becomes a problem for NASCAR. Their inconsistency with when they choose to throw a caution is part of the problem, but I don't think it's the biggest part of the problem. The problem is what happens and how they decide the winner when the caution comes out. The inconsistency is one thing, but here's what I argue is the biggest thing that's wrong with this picture. The finish line is no longer relevant in NASCAR. At least not in this situation, and it really isn't at all. It's no longer the place where the race is decided and whoever's leading at the finish line wins. It's a light. NASCAR now has loops around the track, multiples, okay? And even if they get to the finish line, there's a camera and a scoring loop, and they're not always congruent with each other or where the finish line exactly is. So here's what happens. If you look at this finish here, this is an example from the duel, Austin Cindric, Eric Jones. Okay? Now, when the caution came out, instead of racing to the finish line, NASCAR freezes the field at the time of the caution and uses a light. When the light came on is the key. Well, if I'm a fan in the grandstand, it's nearly impossible, especially at a big track. Two cars this close side by side, I'm not seeing who won. I'm having to wait for NASCAR to tell me who won because they had to look at a picture or a video of exactly when the light came on versus who was leading. So Cindric ends up getting the win in the duel because he was leading at the moment that caution light lit up. That's how they decide the winner. So Jones, I would argue that Jones got robbed there. If you go to the finish line, I think Eric Jones wins the race, right? But we don't do that. We freeze the field at the time of the caution. Here's my question. Why? Well, the answer seems to be because we don't want to restart the race and we don't want everybody racing back to the line because some guys may have to race through the accident, okay? And so that just seems to be an issue for NASCAR as well. We have to have a way of deciding the winner, so let's do it. And, you know, if you go to the finish line, Jones wins. But NASCAR doesn't do that. I don't get this. I don't know when it became okay to call a race winner in a way that the fans can't readily see. I don't know how we got here, honestly. I don't understand how we got so caught up in all this high-tech stuff and using cameras and all of this that we took away the fans. That's the moment that we all pay the ticket for, right? It's what we wait for. We want to see who gets to the finish line first. Now the finish line doesn't matter. That caution light rule, the way that they're doing this now, to me it would make far more sense if when you throw the caution, if you don't want to race back to the line, which I'm perfectly okay with them not doing that, you don't want to race back to the line, do it like almost every other short track in the country does it. Go back to the last fully completed lap, line them up, throw the green, and finish the race. Why do we just not want to do that? Is it because we don't want to have unlimited overtimes? Well, is this any better? Is what we're seeing with this caution situation any better? I mean, I'm all for throwing the caution if you have a wreck on the last lap. If it's going to be an issue with regard to cars running through the accident scene at speed, I'm all for throwing the yellow. But don't overcomplicate this. NASCAR has layers and layers and layers. It's like all the pit cameras now. You know, fans can't watch what's going on at the racetrack and see all the cameras and whatever. So they don't know who's getting penalized or whatever unless, you know, they're hooked up to the TV broadcast or whatever. I don't understand all this technology and the need for it. I think this gets much simpler if NASCAR would simply just go back to the last lap, line everybody up, and let's race this thing to the end. Okay, that to me feels like the fair way to do it, because otherwise we're going to have a different scenario every week. And I do not want to see drivers who are crash sitting in their cars. I don't want to see them put in harm's way by cars coming at them at speed. So I know that there's times when it is the right thing to do to throw a caution on the last lap of a race. My problem is what NASCAR chooses to do next, which is to use a light and then call the race over before we get to a finish line. That to me feels like an incomplete race. And it's also random. There's no way for a driver to know when that caution light's going to come on. So you can't drive to it. You can't do anything in the car. And the fans are sitting there wanting to see the finish line, and it never gets that far. Well, Eric Jones won the race to every fan that was sitting at Daytona in the grandstand. And even those of us at home who were watching, Eric Jones won the race. But wait, no, he didn't. And he didn't because the race ended before we ever finished it at the finish line. The caution came out and NASCAR said, that's it, we're done. And I think that's where this is such a mess, because there's just so much that happens after they make the choice to throw the caution. So I don't know what we're going to see going forward. I don't know that it's going to change. The problem with deciding to throw a caution or not throw it, the other level of complication they have is, at least as far as I know, they're still using a rotation of race control, race directors. So it's human error. Everybody's going to be a little different whether they think we need the caution or not. When David Hoots was up there, he had a system, and it was about as airtight as you could make it. David was great. Now they've got a committee, and you have different race directors at different tracks. So that sort of step-by-step procedure that was worked out so crisply and clearly under David Hoots is now kind of gone, because I'm going to call that moment differently than maybe the next guy who's doing the job the next week. I always want to err on the side of caution, but I want it to make sense. And after the caution, I want to make sure we give the fans a finish. And stopping the race by who was leading at the time that somebody decided to push the caution light doesn't feel like a finish. It just feels like we just abandoned it and said, okay, we're done. There's your winner. And I don't think the drivers are comfortable with it. It was obvious Jimmy Johnson wasn't happy about it. I mean, and I don't know that, I think, again, conceptually, we understand not running through accident scenes, but I don't like the light thing. Step back, go back to the way that you had it before, put everybody in their spot by the last fully completed lap. The ones who can keep running, put your accident cars in the back if they need to be, and let's restart it. And throw a green-white checker, just like we used to do. I see no reason whatsoever why you have to use a light to end a race, especially one as big as a race at Daytona, okay? But for the record, I thought the caution on Sunday in the Am Better Health 400 at Atlanta, I thought that was totally justified. There's no reason why you would not throw a caution. You want to make sure you can get people there. So I don't know what to do going forward here. I just hope that NASCAR is wise enough to be open-minded enough to maybe making a change and going back to the old policy. There's the hot topic. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to walk through the weekend because there was some great racing over the weekend in Atlanta. We want to talk about it. We got interviews. We got all kinds of stuff for you. So stick around. Back with more of the Tom Baker Show right after this.
For over 50 years, FHS Superior Synthetic Oil has powered high-performance engines with unbeatable protection and speed. Whether it's drag racing, go-karts, sprint cars, stock cars, or your daily driver, FHS stands for high speed and delivers every time. Their advanced synthetic oils boost your engine's responsiveness, acceleration, and efficiency, giving you the winning edge on every lap. Visit FHSoil.com today to find the right products for your engine. FHSoil.com.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Welcome back to the show. We are talking NASCAR and talking about Atlanta Motor Speedway. You know, the first thing I would say about Atlanta Motor Speedway is I know there's a lot of people who wish they'd never changed the configuration of the track, just repaved it. But to be honest with you, I love the way it is right now. And the more character it gets, the more I feel like the racing there is just going to get even better. The problem that we have is a car problem. And, you know, again, we talk about that ad nauseum. I thought the racing in Atlanta all weekend was absolutely fantastic for the most part. Let's start on Friday with a truck race. Now, again, Kyle Busch winning is not a huge story. But Kyle Busch winning by a skosh is. Stuart Friesen had him. He had a shot at it. And I think Kyle just basically out-experienced him at the end is what he did. And he ended up getting the win. This was Kyle's 67th Truck Series win. By the way, first of 5 races he's going to run for Spire Motorsports. 67th Truck Series win, 232nd National Series win, which is a record. And you know what? At this point, Kyle running truck races is not sort of the automatic win that it once was. And the reason why I would suggest that that's true is because back when he had his own team and back when Toyota was able to do their own motors, I mean, I feel like they just had everybody covered. And then you put somebody like Kyle with all his experience that he's had in a race with a field that is mostly full of younger, much more inexperienced racers. And Kyle's just going to walk away from them every time. Now you have basically spec motors. The Ilmor engines you can't really do anything to them. So everybody's got the same power. And I think we saw that even the last 3 years that Kyle owned his team, when they had to run the Ilmors, he wasn't as dominant, and neither was the team for that matter. It kind of brought them back to the rest of the field. So I don't think it's an automatic, but I think Kyle out-experienced Stewart to win this. But let's not take away from Stewart's run. We'll talk more about that. But first, let's hear from Kyle Busch.
Well, Kyle Busch, your 8th NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series win here at Atlanta. Man, that one wasn't easy. Bring me through those final 20 laps, the moves you made to get back to the lead and bring this thing home.
I don't really remember, but just thanks to everybody for being out here today. We appreciate you guys. Thank you. I know it's not the 70 and sunny, but it's 50 and cloudy, so y'all are troopers. But awesome run for this Spire Chevrolet and everybody at Gamebridge, Brian Patty, all the guys and girls that do a great job at Spire for building us some really good trucks to come out here with. And just trying to make sure I stayed as far forward as I possibly could, you know, when those guys would kind of cycle to me and get to the next one in front of me, next one in front of me, next one in front of me. I just kept trying to make sure that I battled back and got back to that front so I could try to control it as best as I could. But that inside was good. You know, they were rolling forward, so it made for a heck of a race. So proud that we had a heck of a race there to the finish, and it wasn't single file. So there was some mixing it up for these fans out here to see a cool show.
We talked a little bit about it yesterday and what this track means to you and all the success, but also when you do well in the Truck Series, it also transfers over to the Cup Series. So you feel like you're getting some momentum heading into tomorrow?
No, these things are a lot different than the cars are, but probably more similar than the Xfinity cars. But all in all, just going out here, just getting laps, you know. And speedway racing is speedway racing. There's a lot of luck involved. There's some skill today. I feel like there was definitely some skill. There's some things that guys could learn from the things that I was doing if they go back and watch and pay attention. But the overall bang of it was just to be able to get some laps and come out here tomorrow and try to win again.
Kyle Busch, your winner at Atlanta.
Again, great race. I thought this was a really exciting race. There was only really one major wreck in the event, and that happened on lap 78. Raja Carruth spun his Chevrolet, and it took out several trucks. But that was about the only big one that we had. I mean, you know, Carruth was running well, too, and just lost the handle. And of course, again, we're running in 2-car packs and 2x2 all the way through the field. So, you had several other trucks that got involved there and ended up getting taken out of the event. But Raja did a good job up to that point. And, the Craftsman Truck Series this year, their driver lineup, there's a lot of new racers in the series. And then there's a couple that came back to the series, like Johnny Sauter, that are really, really well experienced. And so what you've got is a real mix in the series, I think even more than we've had. And so, I feel like going forward, when we start getting to kind of the quote unquote normal racetracks, I think the Truck Series is going to be worth watching. Grant Enfinger, by the way, a 1-point lead coming out of Atlanta in the Truck Series. Okay, let's go right on to Saturday. The Xfinity race, I feel like, gave us a little bit more that we should talk about. Not to say the truck race wasn't good, but I just feel like there's more to talk about with the Xfinity race. And here's why. It's because, well, first of all, Austin Hill got the win, and it was a second straight win for RCR. Now, RCR accumulated a few more stats, too, during this event or following this event, and we'll get to that. But first, let's check out Austin Hill and his winter view.
Wow. Oh, man. All right, and his whole team's going to come in. Wow. Austin at Atlanta, celebrating again with son-buried daughters Kinsley, Lindley, wife Ashlyn. Wow, 145 laps led, but the win did not come without a challenge. Had Allgaier and Amarola in the mix. How did you hold them off?
Well, on that restart there, the 7 got clear. I cannot believe he didn't go top there down the backstretch. That was just a present for me, and got down in the corner, got clear of him, then we came back around, and we were about to come to the white, and I drove into 3. I really didn't want the 19 to get to my right rear. Derek Nealon, my spotter, he's such a bad man. I'm not going to say what I want to say. He's a bad man up top, and he told me all night, just don't let him get to your right rear. And I was so worried about letting him get under me because he had a run, but I had help out back, was able to drag some brake as soon as I came off of 4. Kept the 4 with me. Thank you to Parker Retzlaff for giving me that push. And then once I got clear and I landed into one, I was just wide open, and I was hoping that they wasn't going to build a momentum. But this Bennett Chevrolet was as fast as Xfinity Mobile. It's the Bennett 250. We have everyone here from Bennett. There's over 500 plus people here, men, women, you name it. And to be able to do this is something special. We were able to do it last year with the Gold Car for their 50th anniversary, and they sponsored the qualifying. And it looks like to me they need to sponsor some more NASCAR Xfinity races, because this has been some good omen for us. I am so excited. I saw the trophy, but I didn't want to touch it because I didn't want to jinx anything up in the suite earlier at Bennett. And they were giving me some pressure. They were like, hey, you got to win this race. And I'm like, I'm going to give it all I got. And today we did that. And I want to give a huge shout out to everybody at RCR, ECR. Chad Haney, first career win as a crew chief. So cool for him. He's been working his tail off this offseason. Him and I think, are going to work great together. So we're going to soak this one up, drink a lot of beer, and get ready for the next race.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
That is 8 drafting wins for Austin Hill. He now shares space with Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt at the top of the win list for drafting tracks.
Okay, so Austin Hill gets the win. Now, we can't have a win without a little bit of intranet controversy, can we? So let's have a little fun with this. So according to the stats, this is 5 wins for Austin Hill at Atlanta, which ties Kevin Harvick. Kevin has 5 wins as well. Now, Austin also has 8 wins on drafting tracks. This ties him with Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Tony Stewart. This is where the fans are divided here. And I love it when we get into these little discussions about whether a record means something, doesn't mean something. Well, this guy had this guy had that. You know, it's kind of like who was the best Cup driver ever. You have 3 drivers with 7 Cup championships. They're all from different eras. And all of the eras are different. The cars are different. The driver mix is different. You know, all of that, right? So here's the problem with this one. Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Tony Stewart had 2 drafting tracks, Daytona and Talladega. Well, Austin Hill now has a 3rd, Atlanta Motor Speedway, which became a drafting track here late in its life, obviously, right? And for those who say, stop saying that 1.5-mile tracks are drafting tracks, I haven't heard a single person say that all 1.5-mile tracks are now drafting tracks. But it's a simple fact that Atlanta Motor Speedway, although it's 1.5 miles, it's also a drafting track now because of the reconfiguration. So, and here's a little just for those people too. Any track can be a drafting track. If you've got banking and you've got speeds where drafting comes into play, there's a dirt track in Tennessee called Tazewell. The street stocks at Tazewell draft because it's banked higher than Bristol. The speeds are high. There is a little bit of a draft effect there. So, in fact, Atlanta is a drafting track. So the debate is what Austin Hill has accomplished with his 8 wins equal to what Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Tony Stewart have accomplished with their 8 wins. This is just silly to me. We're talking about drafting tracks. I don't care if you have 2 drafting tracks or 10. I mean, 8 wins is 8 wins. So if you're going to take the stat literally, then you have to give Austin Hill his due because he's got the same amount of wins on drafting tracks as Dale and Tony have. On the other hand, you can make the argument, can't you, that 1.5 mile drafting track in Atlanta is quite different from the drafting track that is Daytona and Talladega. And even further, I will also make this statement just to stir the pot even a little bit more. The type of racing, pack racing, that we do on all 3 of those drafting tracks is not the type of racing that Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Tony Stewart won their 8 races on, right? Completely different style. You had to be the fastest car, the best driver, all that sort of thing. There wasn't the luck factor that there is now with other drivers being taken out in, big numbers and pack racing wrecks. And we weren't pushing each other around back in those days, or at least for most of it, at least for Dale's. What was Dale's biggest advantage on a drafting track? He could see the air, right? He understood how to work with the air. And that mattered back in those days. Now, it doesn't matter as much anymore because everybody runs in 2 and 3 wide packs. I don't want to diminish what Austin Hill has done here, but I personally would fall on the side of those who say, well, it's a good accomplishment, but you can't hardly compare Austin Hill to Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Tony Stewart. And I would totally agree with that. But I will say this, to sort of end this argument, at least where this show is concerned, Austin Hill's stats are incomplete because he's got, we would think, a lot more years to run. And there's going to be a point where you can certainly make the case that Austin Hill may be the best drafting track racer of the modern era, at least in the Xfinity series. We've yet to see what he will do in Cup, but again, car is completely different now. Here's what I think the significant stat out of this is. Jesse Love got the pole for this race. That means that RCR is 2 for 2 in poles and 2 for 2 in wins. And nobody else has won a pole or a race yet in Xfinity. Now, Austin Hill also has the point lead just by a couple. Again, 2 drafting tracks to start helps that. Jesse Love finished 16th on Saturday. So not a great result for Jesse. Otherwise, Austin Hill probably wouldn't be the point leader. Jesse would if he'd finished up front. But it's really interesting that RCR is sort of swept. And what's even more is Austin Hill, via RCR, has swept every stage so far in 2025. This is crazy. So as far as the drafting tracks go in the Xfinity series, right now, everyone is chasing RCR. And Jesse Love in year number 2, I believe, is going to establish himself as a driver who is ready not just to make the playoffs, which he's already done with his win at Daytona, but ready to actually compete all season long, win multiple races, and make a deep run to the Final Four and race for the championship at Phoenix later in the year. I think RCR right now has the handle on the Xfinity series, but only on the drafting track so far. We'll see what happens when these guys get back to the rest of the schedule here. We go to COTA and then carry on Vegas and so forth. How are they going to do at those tracks? But surely at the drafting tracks and super speedways, right now RCR is the bee's knees in the Xfinity series. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk Cup, and we're going to hear from the winner of Sunday's race, Chris Bell, right after this.
For over 50 years, FHS Superior Synthetic Oil has powered high-performance engines with unbeatable protection and speed. Whether it's drag racing, go-karts, sprint cars, stock cars, or your daily driver, FHS stands for high speed and delivers every time. Their advanced synthetic oils boost your engine's responsiveness, acceleration, and efficiency, giving you the winning edge on every lap. Visit FHSoil.com today to find the right products for your engine. FHSoil.com.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point. either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Well, Christopher Bell on a green-white checkered finish in what was a wild Atlanta race. Somehow you came from 32nd and found a way to get it done today. As he gets a hug from his wife, you found a way to get it done. How did you do that?
Man, I'll tell you what, that right there is what you dream of, to be able to restart on the first or second row at a green-white checkered at a speedway, and you never know how those things are going to play out. But I'll be the first to tell you, I love super speedways. I don't know, this style of racing has just always been a little bit of a struggle for me, and throughout the beginning of the day, we obviously were just stuck way in the back, and Adam and these boys back here, they did an amazing job getting this thing fixed up to where I could just hold my foot down. That's what it's all about. You got to be able to stay in the throttle, and that last half of the race, we were at our best.
Christopher Bell wins in Atlanta.
Is it me, or is Chris Bell in a whole different mental place in 2025? It just feels to me like this is a different Chris Bell than what we've seen in past years. Almost a more confident, more energetic, and more sure of himself than what he's been in the past with regard to NASCAR. And I think I have an idea why that might be. He did a number of dirt races before the NASCAR season started. Two of the biggest ones were in Tulsa. He ran the Tulsa Shootout. He ran the Chili Bowl. And, you know, his success in those events, I mean, that, to me, the unleashing of his ability to go race on dirt, which again keeps the skills sharp in the offseason and allows him, of course, you know, he won in Tulsa, so that allows him to be confident coming back into NASCAR. I really believe that this is a whole other level of Chris Bell. And I also think it's not totally an accident that Bell and Larson are chasing each other all over the racetrack in NASCAR. So just wanted to share that thought. I think Chris Bell is a different Chris Bell. With that being said, this was a great race, but it was a wild race, and you're still in a drafting track. And unfortunately, because these cars can't just pull out and pass on their own, you still got pushing, you still got contact, way too much of a factor. And then you get guys like Carson Hocevar, who is one of these drivers in the field who's very aggressive. I mean, Carson is not into patience. He's just not a driver with a lot of patience. This is a driver whose checkers are wreckers. And so we have Hocevar and Ryan Blaney getting into an incident. And again, you look at this, and this is pushing. Carson Hocevar just pushed wrong, and Ryan Blaney goes spinning. Now, you know, I want to blame this on Carson Hocevar for being too aggressive, but unfortunately, we have to push. This is how you're successful here. We have to push. And so because we have to push, you get cars moving around with air and all of that, and somebody gets on the wrong side of the bumper and pushes, and the car goes around. And this is where we're at here. And I really have to ask myself whether I'm ready to convict Carson Hocevar of any serious crimes here. Now, Ryan Blaney surely had his opinion about it. Let's hear from Blaney.
I told you, Timmy, 77, absolute weapon. I don't know what we can do about it. I mean, no, he's just a moron. He just runs right in the back of you. Like, he has zero idea of like where to hit, where to bump somebody, where not to. He's swiping across my bumper as he's doing it. He just has no idea. He's been the whole race.
Okay, so Carson Hocevar is a villain, right? Carson Hocevar had his opinion about it. Let's hear it.
That's right, Chris. Carson Hocevar comes home in second place today. Career best finish for you, Carson, but I got to ask you, there was a long line of guys here to talk to you. Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney, very aggressive race out there. What did they have to say to you?
I mean, I'll just leave those to myself, but, first off, apologies to, Larson and HMS, Mr. H, everybody. They help us out a lot, and I didn't realize we weren't racing back to the line. The last two nights were kind of that way, and I hit the 20 to get them out of the way and filled middle. And, a little bit longer, maybe we win the race. So, but big thanks to, Spire Motorsports, Chevrolet, everybody, Delaware Life. I normally ride in the back and run last, and it was, try to get a good, decent finish. And for how bad we were at Daytona, I was no riding. So, there's some stuff I got to learn and clean up a little bit, but I feel like we put ourselves in the perfect opportunity to try and win a race. I've never had that opportunity really before, especially on a super speedway. So just big thanks to everybody at Spire Motorsports. They deserve, all the praise. I just get to hold the wheel and run wide open and try to put myself in a decent spot. And unfortunately, it wasn't the best spot, but it was just one spot short.
Thanks, Carson.
Okay, so how do you all feel about this? I mean, is Carson Hocevar the villain that everybody makes him out to be? Before I speak my piece on this, I want to bring in Kyle Larson. Why? Because Kyle Larson had his own issues with crashing another car at the end of the race. He crowded Austin Cindric straight into the wall. Okay, and I mean, there was no question who was at fault here. Just ask Kyle Larson, because in Kyle's post-race comments, he addressed it directly. But let's hear what Kyle had to say.
And joined by Kyle Larson now, came oh so close, led 12 laps. Kyle, I thought maybe this was going to be your night to get a drafting track win, but third place, you're so close. Take us through kind of those closing laps, what happened with you and Cindric, and then there at the end with 3 wide.
Yeah, just a little bit of a lazy kind of up the track. He got there a little bit quicker than I thought he would. I thought he was just going to pick me up on the exit of 2, but yeah, so that was probably my fault. I haven't seen a replay, but I'm sure that was my fault. And then, the restart, I haven't seen it back. So obviously the 20 got to my right side, but I don't know. I don't know what I did wrong or right. I thought, maybe if the 20 picked me up, he was just going to push me and get clear of me into 1 anyways. So I think it kind of worked out okay. And then, just didn't get the caution to come out late enough till I got to run back to the inside. So came up a little bit short, but proud of the effort today by everybody on our HinderCars.com Chevy. And finally finished at Atlanta and finally got to run up front.
Well done. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I don't want to make a huge deal of this, but I do want to make a point. Now, Kyle Larson did basically say, I guess that was probably my fault, but I mean, you can watch it here. It's pretty obvious. He's coming up the track and he's crowding Cindric straight into the wall here, which then, causes Cindric and William Byron to wreck. This is not the first time we've seen Kyle do this. This is not the first time that we've seen it involve a teammate. Why is it that Carson Hocevar gets so much wrath when he messes up and Kyle Larson doesn't? Why is it that Kyle, no matter what he does, gets away with it in the fans' minds? Why is it because he's this amazing talent that's won all these races on multiple cars, multiple series, all that? He's NASCAR champion. I mean, why do we look at mistakes that one driver makes differently than another? I know that Carson was just flat out dirty in the trucks. Let's be honest. I mean, he's got a past, right? But I feel like part of the deal with Carson Hocevar right now is that Carson's trying to figure out how to actually be dirty and win instead of being dirty and wrecking everybody else. Because to me, anytime you have to push, that's a dirty move. I mean, on the short tracks, you get to somebody's bumper and knock them out of the way, they call you dirty, right? But we have to push in these national series on these speedways, big speedways, drafting tracks. Pushing is a part of it. So, and the margin for error when you're contacting another car, truck, the margin for error is so small. It doesn't take much for the bumpers to become misaligned. So, look, I'm not defending Carson Hocevar, but I'm also saying that I think when you see a driver of the caliber that Kyle Larson is, and you see an accident like that, I mean, this isn't a spotter issue. He cleared himself, and he was not clear. You heard him say, I didn't expect Bell to get there as quick as he did. Well, I mean, or Cindric, sorry, as quick as he did. I mean, this is just simply not, to me, it feels like we're judging two drivers who both caused wrecks late in the race. We're judging two drivers unequally harsh. Okay, Hocevar is an idiot. Hocevar is this. Hocevar is that. You can see it. I mean, I'm not calling Kyle a name. I'm just saying, I mean, you can't make those kind of mistakes if you're Kyle Larson. You know, you're trying to win races, and I think when you're at Kyle's level, but again, we're talking about a type of racing that's just so foreign to what motorsports is supposed to be on these tracks. And so I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because I feel like we're really dumping on Carson Hocevar. And, you know, again, this wasn't Kyle Larson's first rodeo here. So if you're going to judge one, I would say at least for this race, both of them made silly mistakes. And this is why we had those incidents happen. Take a break. We'll be back. We're going to talk IndyCar when we come back because the Grand Prix of St. Pete is on deck.
For over 50 years, FHS Superior Synthetic Oil has powered high-performance engines with unbeatable protection and speed. Whether it's drag racing, go-karts, sprint cars, stock cars, or your daily driver, FHS stands for high speed and delivers every time. Their advanced synthetic oils boost your engine's responsiveness, acceleration, and efficiency, giving you the winning edge on every lap. Visit FHSoil.com today to find the right products for your engine. FHSoil.com.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Welcome back to the show, and we're going to get some IndyCar talk in a moment, but I want to talk a little bit about Dodge because there is a persistent rumor, and it's everywhere now. There seems to be way too much smoke for there not to be fire with this, so it appears as though Dodge is set for a return to NASCAR in 2026, racing in the Craftsman Truck Series. Now, I mean, Dodge has got a Cup championship. Dodge has got truck championships. Dodge has won a ton of races in NASCAR over the years. One of the most iconic brands in history, right? It was always Chevy, Ford, Dodge back in the day. And of course you had, other brands like Pontiac and the like, Buick. that were also involved. And now we're down to Chevy, Ford, Toyota, until apparently now Dodge making a comeback. Now, we don't know who or how many teams or whatever the case. Here's what we do know. Different era, because again, Ilmore Motors. So Dodge bringing back the Ram in 26, and it makes you wonder a little bit, doesn't it? I mean, at this point, is it just in the Truck Series, or are we looking at maybe expansion into Xfinity and Cup either right off the bat or, at some point down the road? Who knows? But starting in the Truck Series, this will certainly bring some interest back to that series, and could be some opportunities for some new drivers, new teams to come in. So I'm going to be fascinated to watch this. And of course, we'll keep you updated as to how this develops. But it certainly is an interesting rumor. Okay, to IndyCar we go. The Grand Prix of St. Pete. Now, I want to focus on one aspect to this. Fox Sports is the new broadcast partner for IndyCar. Fox Sports, I would argue, is doing a way better job of promoting IndyCar than they have NASCAR in quite a while. All 17 races of the IndyCar Series this year, the NTT IndyCar Series, are on network television. It is the only premier series in North America that can say that, which is really interesting. They've also hired Will Buxton away from the F1 side of things to take the play-by-play role. Now, I love Will Buxton, and Will Buxton, much like Lee Diffie, who a lot of people don't like just because they don't like his voice, but Lee is one of the most well-prepared broadcasters and the most passionate broadcasters in the business, and Will is the same. He's going to have Townsend Bell and James Hinchcliffe, and I think that from what the press release tells us, they're going to be very story-focused. They're going to try to really focus on making heroes out of the drivers. Well, what kind of a concept is that? It's about doggone time, I say, that somebody gets to a point where we're focusing on drivers first. Something IndyCar hasn't done in forever. They're terrible at self-promotion. It's basically they promote the brand, and not well, I might add. Just remember, there was a time when Gene Simmons, the bassist and singer for Kiss, was the face of IndyCar's promotion back in the day. So I'm loving this. They're going to have drones at St. Pete. Fox is going to use drones. And you think, I'll quote Townsend Bell here. We'll have drones at St. Pete for the first time. St. Pete in particular, if you just think about the final corner that leads onto the front straightaway, the runway there at St. Pete, for so many years we analyzed different racing lines through there. Now they're going to have the drones, so they're going to be able to kind of watch. You're going to get a whole different viewpoint of the side-by-side action that happens there. I think having Fox broadcasting IndyCar, the way that they're doing it, the commercials with the drivers where they give you their backgrounds and they kind of poke a little fun at them, they've been really entertaining all the way through. Okay, I think this could make a huge difference for a series, which is IndyCar, whose costs, whose budgets are rising quickly. Okay, this is a series now where the teams needing 30 to 40% more capital in order to run the same amount of races because, the changes that they've made in terms of the hybrid power and costs of personnel even going up now because, teams are fighting for the best crew chiefs, the best engineers, the best people. And so, the costs of that are going up quickly too. So this is a series that needs a real shot in the arm. And I'm here to tell you, I believe that Fox Sports and this announcing crew, this broadcast crew, may just be the answer. Again, it's storytelling, they say. And that doesn't matter what championship you're talking about or what country you're talking to or about. This is Buxton. It's storytelling, and it's getting people to care about these incredible gladiators, these incredible daredevils who do this amazing thing that I've always wished I could do, but never had the skill set to be able to do. They always say those who can do, and those who can't, they talk about it. I'm very excited, says Buxton. I would echo those sentiments, and I think that from the Grand Prix of St. Pete forward, this could be one of the biggest years for IndyCar in terms of viewers and in terms of the way that the series is presented. I'm hoping that this partnership with Fox will be the mechanism for IndyCar to attract some additional sponsorship in to help some of these teams out to be able to, again, you've got kind of a haves and have-nots right now. The charters that Roger implemented will add some value, of course, for the teams and create an environment where now sponsors will know that there is a value for the teams. But you've got teams like Dale Coyne who don't have nearly the budgets available right now that, an Andretti Global or a Penske or a Ganassi even would have. And so, we need to be able to take these drivers, and we need to be able to present them in such a way that it inspires more dollars into the series, whether that's investment or whether it's sponsorship. So I'm hoping for a great season of IndyCar on Fox, and I can't wait to see the direction that this goes in, because ultimately what IndyCar for me has been about for a number of years now is you have the Indy 500, which is the greatest race in the world as far as I'm concerned. It is the greatest spectacle in racing. And then you have IndyCar. And keep this stat in mind, 74% of the viewers who watch the Indy 500 don't watch another IndyCar race all year. That stat says a lot about the popularity of the race versus the series. So I'm hoping that Fox can do something to create a spark and put us into a position where maybe the IndyCar series can now inject some more fuel for the teams as far as sponsorship and investment goes. And maybe we can create some better racing out of all of that as well, because there's a ton of talent. We just have to put them in situations where they can show the talent that they have. Okay, with that, I remind you that for more exclusive content and stories, you can join us at steeringwheelnation.com and on our 24/7 streaming page right on the PowerTube TV platform. Just go to watchpowertubetv.com and find Steering Wheel Nation. Our show streams all week long, all day long, 24/7, various episodes, and we are into our third season now on PowerTube. We're super excited about it. And here's what else. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Wheel Nation or Steering Wheel Nation on LinkedIn. And I'm also on LinkedIn. It's Tom Baker Media if you want to follow me personally on LinkedIn. And oh, by the way, Coach Tom NC on Instagram as well. And one last note before we close things out here. We have got this show ready to take to the airwaves live. We're going to be live starting in a couple of weeks on our channels on Steering Wheel Nation, as well as on PowerTube TV. So we're going to have a live aspect to this. And I would like for all of you who are watching this to join us for the live show and also for our other show that's going to be going to video soon. Currently, it's an audio podcast called Inside Groove. You'll find all the best in short track racing coverage on that particular show. So 2 shows per week coming out of Steering Wheel Nation here, and we are super excited about that. Again, the week of March the 10th is when we officially will go live, and also on that week we will be adding PowerTube as well, and you can catch the action on our streaming channel and on PowerTube's podcast channel all week long. Until next time, I'm Tom Baker. Thanks for watching. So long.